Welcome to one of the last episodes of the Podcast with Anna and the team member interviews, the RWS team. This one is one I've been very excited about because Sharon Lehman does something very different than the rest of the team, although she does do writing as well. But she is our incredible food photographer and recipe development developer. And I'm so excited to have you here today to talk about that. So I'll let you introduce yourself briefly and your career history and all that.
Well, thank you for that little dose of praise. It's nice to start on that note. Yeah, I'm Sharon Lehman. So I have been a dietitian for a long time. I feel like pushing 15 years, but I haven't always worked as a dietitian, even though I've maintained that. I think out of college, I started in the typical like clinical roles and all that, long-term care, inpatient, outpatient, and just couldn't really find anything that felt like the right fit or like I was really like connecting and helping the patients I was seeing, because you saw them and then they were gone. So I kind of pivoted and got a master's in education. And the unifying theme there was counseling. And I think when I worked with elementary kids, yes, there's a big academic focus, but we were also, or at least I brought like the mental, physical aspects of health and how that affects their academics. So I feel like that was kind of like the transition from the world of health and nutrition, and whenever I could, I would try to sneak in like, body image and healthy habits and eating and that kind of thing and bring that into the school setting because I don't get a lot of that. Anyway, I guess fast forward a few years and a few things kind of happened at once that found my direction. One is I've always loved cooking and like collect cookbooks, and I've always loved photography, and I've taken, I guess my real intro to photography was like high school art classes, and we did, high school photography lessons and that kind of thing. But the rest is self-taught. And I kind of thought, this is probably like 2016, 2017. I want to have a food blog. I love, cooking. I love playing in the kitchen. I want to start to make recipes and learn how to take pictures of them. And so I was just, not a clue. And those early pictures are like, a little cringe now. But that really like kind of started the idea of developing recipes, even though then it was just for me and just for fun. And from there, I think we connected through the Arties Who Write Facebook group, and you put out a call for writers. So, which I guess it's been like 6-7 years ago now. It's a long time.
When my youngest was born, and he is going to turn
Yeah.
6 in November.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah,
I think it was late fall, New Year. So I guess with you for a while, I was just writing, which I still do, a piece of that. And at some point, we kind of talked about expanding services, and you were super supportive and said, yeah, let's offer brands recipe development, original recipes and with original photos. And it kind of took off from there.
Yeah. And I remember those conversations in the early days. I was like, I think it's a good idea. We should do this. And we were like, how do we do it? How do we charge for this? How do we like even promote it?
Yeah.
And it was just kind of, yeah, flying by the seat of our pants, I think, at the beginning.
Yeah. And I mean, it's really been just learning as I go. And I mean, like with writing, I feel like that's how my like photography arc and food styling has gone too. It's just learning like that looks a little weird, or like, oh, the end product turned out pretty good in that picture, but like I wish I would have like moved this utensil here, or I should have garnished with this. And it's just constantly learning as you go, and even with like camera settings and editing techniques and that kind of thing, I feel like now I've got it down pretty good. It takes me less fiddling, but you're always learning and always trying to just improve. Or you see something beautiful on the internet and you're like, wow, how did they create that? I want to do that. I want to learn that. That inspires you. And so you just are always kind of tweaking and learning as you go.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, I mean, I've seen the growth of the photography for sure, over the last 5 years, and how sometimes it just blows me away. Like some of the photos, how
Yeah.
much they continue to improve. So
It's
is there
funny.
any,
Oh, go
yeah,
ahead. No,
was
I was
there
just gonna
any,
say it's funny. I was scrolling back through my camera roll and sometimes there's like food photos on there and I'm like, oh, I took that picture. Like, oh, that was pretty good. Like I remember like not being happy with that at the time and then looking back, I'm like, oh, that was good. Or I forgot about that recipe. So it's funny to see and look back.
I'm like visually, I want to say visually impaired because I'm not blind, but like I just visually, I'm not, it's not like a talent of mine, like interior design. And my husband, used to shoot music videos here in Nashville. So he does have that basic understanding of what things look good, what things don't look good. He designed this whole background here, but every time he talks to me about it, my eyes just glaze over. I'm like, just figure it out. Like,
And you're like, oh, that looks good. Yeah.
yeah, I'm like, okay. I, I was on the call with an IRS agent one day, and she complimented me on it, and I was like, okay, well, if the IRS approves, then I think I'm
Doing
doing a good
something
job.
right. You're doing something right.
So what are some of the things other than just doing? Is there anything that any classes that you took, or any methods that you used, or anything specific that you used to like learn how to do this?
Well, as far as actual recipe development, that's all self-taught. And, I've been cooking since I was a kid, like getting recipes and tearing through, and I want to make this. And, you have parents help, grandparents help, whatever. And then eventually you're doing it on your own. And we had some culinary skills things in like our undergraduate dietetics work.
Mhm.
So I think you have that base foundation of culinary techniques and just kind of what works and what doesn't, just from, home cooking.
Yeah.
But when it comes to developing recipes, my process went from kind of winging it to like now I have a format that I follow. And sometimes clients come to us and they know exactly what they want. This is the dish, and you got to go make it. And you're like, okay, well, first I have to research that. I think one time someone asked us to create like a British style English like Christmas pudding, like steamed cake, Christmas cake that they eat at the holidays. I'm like, oh, well, I've never made that. I've never, and so we need to like research it. And so sometimes you're learning like the history and the techniques that go into these dishes. And that's really interesting. And other times it's just, a theme or an ingredient, or we want to feature this product for this season or this holiday, and you're given like that creative freedom. So it just kind of starts with me kind of just brainstorming like what flavor profile am I interested in, what kind of sounds good with like flavor pairings. And I'll flip through cookbooks or visit some of the bigger like test kitchen recipe databases on the internet, things like America's Test Kitchen or Martha Stewart, things like that, where they're like, they have really big recipe databases just to get like a base idea of ingredient ratios and cooking times and cooking temperatures. And from there, you kind of take your idea and just start to hash it out into that first draft. And you don't know if it's going to work really until you get into the kitchen and do it. And then it's just constant note taking too, tasting as you go, and like, well, that looks right, or that looks like too much or not enough of an herb or a cheese, and kind of just adjusting the amounts. I would say in that first trial is you're really just focusing on the amounts, and then the end product. I mean, I taste and give my feedback, but really I turn to like my family and have them taste and see, what's standing out, what could it use more of, does it taste a little overcooked, or what their preferences are, and I'll work that back into the recipe. So that's kind of the recipe development side. As for the photography, I did take courses. There is a great resource. It's called Photography School, and that was started by a food blogger. Can't think of her name, but her food blog is Broma Bakery, and she has courses that kind of walk you through the whole, like, actually setting up and styling and the aesthetics of, like, kind of what looks good together, all the way to the end where you're in the post-processing in Lightroom or Photoshop, wherever, and you're just making those final tweaks to really make an image pop. So that, I would say, was, I mean, that's years ago, that I went through those courses and just kind of learned from people who were doing that as a full-time job. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome because it's like just learning as you go, and then the process of the recipe development. So who eats all the food? Like, I feel like there's a lot of food that comes to your kitchen.
So I hate wasting food. It is like a real pet peeve. So, I mean, we eat what we can, and I share with, my parents, or they're close by. So sometimes I send things into work with my partner, like whatever we can do, to not waste it. And I mean, sometimes you do have a fail and nobody wants to eat that, and it does need to go into the garbage, but
Was there deep
it
fried
doesn't
spaghetti?
happen too much.
Wasn't there like a deep fried spaghetti once?
I was thinking about that before we got on the call today, because I was going to say that was like my most challenging recipe I think I've ever had to do. They knew they wanted a deep fried spaghetti and meat sauce ball. And I'm like, how are you going to deep fry that? Like, just the logistics of it's going to fall apart. I mean, it worked. We eventually got it to work, but there were a lot of fails with that one. I think that was like the most trials I've had to do, and a lot of like wasted food. And then I'm eating like, falling apart spaghetti balls. But eventually I got it. And when they were hot and pretty crispy right out, they were pretty good. I got to say, it's not something I would ever have dreamed up, but it did work.
Yeah. That's one that stands out to me. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Okay, well, you handle it, Sharon. I have nothing to do with this. Definitely different. So in terms of, working with brands and offering recipe development and food photography, for brands, like, what do you sort of see as the benefit of that in terms of making sales of their products? So like a lot of our clients have protein powders, collagens, blah, blah, like all these things that you make recipes out of. So like, what sort of do you see as the benefit for them to have original recipes?
Right. I think the biggest benefit for brands is to show their product in use and show how much versatility and value that product can bring to someone's life. I think so often consumers think about something like collagen powder, and it's like, oh, I'm just going to throw that in a smoothie. I'm going to throw a scoop in my coffee. There's so much you can do with it. You can bake with it. You can add it to sauces and like incorporate it so many other ways, to really make that a part of your daily routine. And especially for people who have fun cooking, or maybe don't want to have, a collagen smoothie every day, just to offer that added versatility and, you know, introduce other ways of using a product to the consumers. Something like, a meat stick, you might think, I'm just gonna, throw this in my bag, it's gonna be my snack, my afternoon snack. And it's like, well, we can chop it up, we can throw it in all these other dishes, whether it's a dip or a salad or a burrito bowl, and find new ways to use that product in your life. So I think from the brand's perspective, just really showcasing, when they have a good product with good nutrition, how many other ways you can use it, and have fun with it. So I think really the value, the versatility, and just fun with the flavor or the nutrition, and bringing more of that into your daily routine is the goal with the recipes.
Absolutely. But then, and then another thing that I think that recipes can do is a lot of them are really good for SEO,
Yeah.
and I think a lot of our clients don't lean into that piece of it quite as much. But when your recipe is a featured recipe, when somebody searches for something, especially at the top with a great photo and whatever, those are new eyeballs on your brand, and so yes, like, well, I think they're super valuable for existing customers, or people who already use the product. I think they're actually a really great way to showcase the product to new people who don't know but are looking for, I don't know, fried spaghetti with collagen powder.
Right, right. I know, absolutely. I agree. I think it's a great way to find and attract new customers to your brand, whether, they're Googling for something or someone shares an image of a beautiful recipe on social media and you think, what is that? I want to
Mhm.
make, because, the old saying, it's cliche, but it's true. You eat with your eyes first, right? Like you're like, what is that? It gets your attention. And it's why like the visuals with the recipes are so important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, this is a wonderful conversation, and I'm so grateful for you and your beautiful work and the continued just improvements that you make every single time. You know, it's so fun to watch, and I'm always blown away at the things that you deliver and are able to do for our team. So I'm really grateful for that and all of your knowledge and understanding about that. Because, like I said, it is a not I have many skills, and that is not one of them. So I
Well, thank
appreciate it. Anyway, thank you so much for being here, Sharon.
you.
All right, talk to you later.
Bye bye.